Well, hello, all of you scrappy music teachers out there, and welcome to the Scrappy Piano Teacher Podcast. My name is Jacqueline Rosick. You can call me Jackie, and I am so glad that you are here. I have got a great episode lined up for you today, jam-packed full of lots of information, lots of numbers, but not in a bad way because it's information about you and information about me. I am joined by the fabulous Karen Thickstun, NCTM, who is an MTNA past president, coordinator of the MTNA Business Resources and MTNA Business Digest, and recently retired as professor of piano pedagogy at Butler University, where she was also the founding director of the Butler Community Arts School. In this conversation, we're talking through some of the fascinating, and I mean fascinating, results from the 2024 MTNA Member Survey, especially the pieces that connect how we run and sustain our teaching studios. One quick note for you before we jump in. If this conversation gets you thinking about your own studio policies, which it probably will, Karen and I will also be presenting an MTNA webinar on June 23rd called Communicating Value and Boundaries, Studio Policies That Serve and Protect. Karen has got some amazing information for you guys in this webinar, and I am just giddy and I'm so excited to be doing it along with her. And if you want to dig even deeper and actually work on your policy and calendar, get it all sketched out, all the deep stuff, and work with some teachers who are doing it as well, I have one more Policy Triangle workshop coming up on June 19th, noon Eastern time. You can join me at scrappypianoteacher.com/scrappy sessions. That workshop includes a policy audit from me. And you know what? Even if you can't make the actual workshop and you have to go through the replay and then send me the audit, that still counts. Okay, let's get to it. My conversation with Karen Thickstun. Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the Scrappy Piano Teacher Podcast. My name is Jacqueline Morozic, but of course you can call me Jackie. And today I am super duper excited about my guest. I have Karen Thickstun with us. Karen, welcome. I'm so glad to have you.
And thank you so much for the invitation. I'm delighted to be here.
We're going to have so much fun today. Would you mind sharing just a little bit about yourself for our audience?
Sure. I don't know what they most want to hear because I'm at the end of a long career. So it's important, I guess, to know that I had a business career for many years before I returned to music and returned to get a master's in piano pedagogy after an MBA. So not the typical career path for music teachers, but music is in our hearts and I couldn't ignore that for any longer. So I've got 30 years of teaching, and I'm also founding director of the Butler Community Arts School, which allowed me to do some very passionate work that's close to my heart in terms of serving the community and making the arts accessible to underserved children. So at the moment, though, Jackie, I'm retired from all of that and just following projects that I'm really passionate about.
Which includes the MTNA Business Digest, correct?
It does. So I'm coordinator of business resources, which is a broad term for MTNA, and that includes the MTNA Business Digest, which comes out 4 times a year by email sent to all MTNA members. And that is a collection of articles related to the business of teaching. And then all of those articles, as well as other resources that I collect, are archived on the MTNA webpage in the Business Resources Library. And there you might find, beyond articles, things like webinars related to business or legal documents that the MTNA attorney has created for teachers. It's a huge resource library open to MTNA members. And then the third component of that position for MTNA is the MTNA Member Survey. And perhaps that's why I'm here today.
Yeah, I love that survey so much. I feel like all of your experience has like this trifecta for teachers. You taught, you said, for 30 years. And then I didn't realize that you started that program.
I did.
That's amazing. And then you also have your MBA in business.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's just amazing.
Yes.
That's exactly what we need. That's because, most of us are musicians and the business side is difficult. And that's why we're here. So you worked on the 2024 MTNA Member Survey with Ryan Green, who's actually really close to me. I'm in Cincinnati. He's in Dayton. When you guys started getting the results, I'm really curious what stood out to you, or maybe we should even back up and talk about what the member survey actually is, and then get into what really stood out to you.
Sure. And that's an important point to identify what this survey is, because it's not the typical jot form thing that you get in your email. Every profession, regardless of music or not, takes a good look at itself from time to time. Many professions have an association that maybe organizes this kind of research for them. I call this a benchmarking survey. It is comprehensive. It is not short. I'll warn you before the next one comes out. It's around 80 questions, but the depth of information you can get from it is worth the time to fill out the survey. And as a benchmarking survey, what that means in the business world is that it's capturing a moment in time and painting a picture of our whole profession, not just what I do. And the value to teachers then is this is providing us with relevant information about the profession as a whole that we can use to validate what we do or examine what we do or improve what we do. And in that way, it's an educational tool. I get a lot of new ideas just about how to teach from the survey, not just how to run my business. MTNA has committed to doing this every 4 years. We did it in 2024, as you mentioned. We did it in 2020. And before that, it was 2005. So there is a big gap there. But going forward, watch for the next one, 2028. And as you do regular surveys, there's even greater value because you can identify trends and patterns. And you can be looking ahead, not just reflecting on the past. So I'll give you an example of how valuable this can be. One of the questions we asked was, what will be the most important challenges to independent music teachers in the next few years? Now, think about for a minute what you would say, but this is a question we did ask in 2005. So we have 3 different data points to look at. In 2005, the top 3 items were maintaining student interest, teacher education maintenance, and studio growth. Okay, Fast forward to 2020. Number 1 was...
that was in 2005.
That was 2005.
Okay, 2005.
Now in 2020, see, what's interesting is you're going to see some of these are changing. So in 2020, most important challenges, and again, this is for independent music teachers, not higher ed, not in the school systems, but independent teachers. In 2020, overscheduled students, number 1, no surprise.
Yeah.
Student motivation and public health, not a surprise. This was 2020.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
That was a top challenge. Okay. 2024. So public health no longer showed up on the list at all. So not surprisingly, 2024, number 1. Do you want to guess?
I'm going to say overscheduled students still. Yay.
Yeah, overscheduled students. But number 2, a livable income. So that is rising up as something that's on the radar of independent teachers. And number 3, and this one is interesting. I have to stop and think about it for a moment. Lack of understanding of the value of music teaching in society as a whole.
Fair. Yeah, I can absolutely see that.
I think that's quite fair. And that has risen to the top of what the survey participants think is a major challenge. And then student motivation was number 4. So I'm going to mention it because student motivation is the only one that has stayed in the top list since 2005.
Okay. Interesting.
So everybody's going to take something different from those results. And that's the beauty of this kind of a survey also. What you do with this information is going to depend on your situation and where you're at in your career. Early career teachers are probably quite concerned about a livable income and how they're going to pursue that. And other specific questions then within the survey will drill down into sort of what the demographics are and what the financial situations are of all the teachers that participated in the survey. Now, let me qualify one thing here about the survey, because many people know that MTNA, as well as other organizations, is very aware of being in compliance with the Federal Trade Commission. The FTC has very specific guidelines about how you can conduct a member survey and not get into issues with violating antitrust law. So we're not going deep into that, here, but
Okay.
be aware when colleagues get together and share information, if they go too far and talk as competitors to each other, that can become price fixing. For example, if they share information about their rates, about their current rates with each other. So price fixing is what most people are familiar with. If you
Okay.
and I and all the teachers in our states get together and say we all should charge X amount, that is price fixing and that is illegal.
Interesting. I've seen stuff about that in the Facebook social media
Mm-hmm.
groups where people are like, let's all share our rates. And there's people that come on there and they're like, no, we're not going to do that. And that makes perfect
Right.
sense.
So it's up, in our profession, we have to self-enforce. There is no governing body that's looking over us and saying, what are you doing? And we're going to police what you're doing. That's not true in our profession. We don't have a credentialing body, like the AMA for doctors and the Bar Association for lawyers. There are organizations that ensure that compliance happens. We are self-regulated as independent teachers. Now, that doesn't mean you can't do member surveys, and it doesn't mean you can't ask about financial data. You just have to do it in a certain way. And here are the key points. You must ask about historical data. So the 2024 survey that we did was based on rates that people used for their lessons the year prior, 2023. So it is a
Okay.
year historical data. That is in compliance with the FTC. That is considered educational. We are sharing educational information about historical rates.
So if it was current, if it was during 2024, that would be violating.
That would be. A second thing you must do is share this information in aggregate form, which means it is all compiled together and you can't match any one result to a particular person. And that's because it was all done anonymously also.
Thank you for defining aggregate. I told you before we started, I was like, I don't know what that word means. So thank you.
It's a common survey word. So. But it's done anonymously. When people type in their results, MTNA is collecting it, but it is all coming in anonymously through the survey tool that we're using. So all of those are sort of the main things that make us compliant with the FTC in terms of doing a survey like this.
There's a shorter highlight, right? Which is not that short. And then you have the full survey.
Right. So
how many pages are they?
Well,
because I can't remember. I know it's a lot.
It is a lot. But again, it's a ton of valuable information. So when the results come in, we compile them together and try to make sense out of them and look for trends and patterns. And now that we have multiple years, we can compare what the 2024 results were to 2020 and sometimes back to 2005. So to make it easily digestible by the average person, and including myself, I'm not going to read all. By the way, there were over 2,800 independent teachers that answered these questions. Beautiful. I'm not going to read all 2,800 answers myself.
That sounds like so much work, what you guys did. When I first looked at this, I thought, oh man, that's an investment of time.
It's a major, major project. But so we published it in two ways. One is a very condensed version of the results, which was 22 pages. And these are on the MTNA webpage. I believe it's a members only section, but for any MTNA member, they can go and read the summary. And in the summary, we do things like, bar graphs and things where we can compare to previous years. And then we did a longer version. It's 84 pages, but that covers almost everything that was in the survey. But again, it's been presented in aggregate form. So lots of bar graphs and pie charts, much easier to read than text, various kinds of summaries and comparisons back to the prior years.
Yeah, I think this is great. I mean, there's so many reasons, obviously, but even for just an average teacher who's teaching at home, kind of working through the grind and getting a little bit of imposter syndrome or saying, man, I have these issues. I think looking at that survey, you can almost feel the community without physically being with the community, because you're like, oh, well, this is a normal issue that everybody's having, like the overscheduled student. I hear that all the time. Rates, keep staying sustainable, which is what we talk about a lot. And I feel like it came out at the beginning of the school year. fall of 2025. Am I about right when you guys released it?
It actually would have been released a little bit before that, but yes, that's when it started really being promoted. And it will stay on the webpage, so anybody can access it. But you use the word community, which is interesting because I was thinking about, when I'm going through it and looking at all of it in total, I'm struck by, okay, yes, we're all independent teachers and we're all teaching music, but what an incredible variety of answers. I mean, some of the questions would have 20 different answers about what kind of studio management software you use, or any particular question. But on the other hand, there's a unity that I sense in it as a whole, because when we ask about challenges of the future, certain things rose to the top and we are all facing the same things. Or when we asked about things like what repertoire do you teach and what do you include in lessons, there's a lot of commonality amongst that. And I felt a sense of connection to all these other teachers that I've never met because we're teaching in isolation across the country. And that's what we are. We are independent teachers doing our own thing, but we're part of a bigger picture, a profession that is serving students and serving our communities. And we're doing it in so many different ways, but yet we're all together doing it.
Okay, so we'll go back. Was there anything specifically that stood out to you where you're like, I wasn't expecting that? Or was it pretty much what you were expecting?
No, I'm always surprised by a few things. And
Yeah.
that's in a good way, in a disappointing way. I don't know. It's across the board. I have a fun idea for you if you're game for it. We put the survey into a game show format to share at the recent national conference. Would you like to play Family Feud for a few minutes?
Love to, especially since I had to miss your session and I was really not happy about that. So now I get to play.
Well, I extracted just a few questions that intrigued me, and let's see if I can share that here on the screen and make sure that's the right one.
I see it.
Family Feud. Okay.
Family Feud.
I assume you're familiar with how that game works.
Yes. Survey says.
Survey says. So, and I got to tell you, some people in my audience, it took them a minute to change their mindset. You're not predicting you're not sharing what you do. You're trying to guess what all the survey participants said as a whole.
Okay.
What's their
number? It's been a while since I've looked at the survey. So.
Okay. So
this is fair.
I'll give you an easy one to start with. Question 1, how many years have you been teaching? So think about 2,800 teachers answered the survey. They were all MTNA members, if that helps you at all. And just think of a number.
I would say 15 plus.
They actually was a bit older group that took the survey.
Okay, wow.
Teachers, I know, look at this. The majority of the teachers have been teaching for over 20 years. Top 2 answers.
That's awesome. All right. Wow, you didn't have very many at all underneath that.
We did not. And that's something we're really going to work on. We don't know if they just didn't take the survey, because we know they are members of MTNA. So apparently they did not take the survey. And that's something we will work on for next time to try to get.
All right. So you youngins listening.
That's right.
You're going to be taking the survey when it comes out in what, 2028?
The fall of 2028.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
And I think if they're listening to your podcast and they see some of the value of these questions, they're going to want to take the survey and put their answers in there too. Okay. Another question we asked was, how many individual lesson students do you teach?
Okay.
Again, these are all independent teachers, and this is where there's a huge variety. Some people only teach 2 or 3. Some people teach 60 students a week. I don't know how, but they do.
Word.
So the most popular answer, if you want to guess,
I'm going to guess 30.
Yeah, you're very, that's the second answer.
Okay.
Most teachers are in that 11 to 20 student range. This didn't surprise me necessarily, and especially if you look at the second answer, 21 to 30.
Okay. Yeah, most of the teachers that I work with, they have too many students. So I find that really interesting that those teachers with 11 to 20, I wonder if they're feeling very content because they're not coming asking me for help.
Well, it's
I don't
quite
know.
possible, but here's where we then can compare. And so looking at that number one answer, 11 to 20, that percentage of 27%, that's a decrease from 2020. And the increase is in the next group of 21 to 30 students. So the studios of this demographic that took the survey, the trend is getting larger.
Okay. What was it in 2020, the percentage?
It was very close. It was around 20%.
Okay. All right.
Now, another qualifying caveat here, I only have 2 data points, 2020 and 2024. So I'm going to say there's a trend, but I can't confirm that until we have another survey and have at least 3 data points. But I looked to that as a positive. The other area that was increasing is those who are teaching 31 to 40 students. That was only a small increase, but it was increasing.
I wonder if that ties in with the wanting to be financially stable. They feel like they need to take on more. Yeah.
That could be. It could be. But again, this didn't have as many young teachers taking the survey as the older teachers. So I think that's a factor too. Maybe they're tapering off their career as opposed to starting their career.
Oh, good point.
But I can tell you, as a senior, a livable income is still something we all think about and plan for. Okay, this is a related one that I found interesting too, in terms of how it's changed. How many years does the average student study with you?
Wow, because I know this was definitely changed for me, especially since the pandemic. Because once upon a time, I would say 10. And now I'm going to say 5.
Okay.
So I was close. I am like in second. I'm like in number 2 for all of these. So close.
Yes. So the number one answer was 6 to 10 years. And that answer increased from 2020. So students
that's great.
With these teachers are staying longer. So that's good news for retention.
Okay. Again, I keep thinking about how these are teachers who have been around for a long time too. So they've had that opportunity. Because if you had a lot of newer teachers, they wouldn't have even been able to answer a higher number.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. The second answer of 2 to 5 years, that number decreased from 2020. So that emphasizes, again, what I just said. Students within these teachers are staying longer and studying with.
So I'm still in the game. Like if we're actually playing the game, I'm still getting answers on the board.
Yes, you are. And that's what I did when I played the game. If you got any answer on the board, you got that number of points for that answer.
Okay.
And I will tell you, this was funny. She told me after the session, the teacher who won, who had the highest score, admitted after the session that she had been reading the survey over the past few months as she was redoing some of her policies.
Oh, beautiful.
Number one, that's another use for the survey.
Yeah.
That's partly how she knew some of the answers.
Okay.
Okay.
Fair enough. That's okay.
Let's look at some other things here. What studio documents do you use? So there are several open-ended questions where you can list multiple answers. Many people would have put many of these types of things, a studio policy, calendar, and you could have many, many things that you would say there. Not surprisingly, studio policy was number 1.
Yeah.
What surprised me was that decreased from 2020. In 2020, 90% said they use a studio policy.
And now it's 85.
Now it's 85. I hope that is not a trend.
Yeah, no, agree.
I would argue that's one of the most important documents in your studio.
It's a good argument. I'd be right behind you on that.
The other one that decreased was the use of a registration form. And I don't necessarily know why.
I wonder if because so much is more online with software, I wonder if there's something to that.
Well, maybe, but the way we phrased the question in the survey itself was whether you use paper forms, websites, or apps for these documents.
So you included all that. Huh.
We did try to capture that fact, yes.
Interesting. Okay.
So interesting, and we'll see where that goes on the next survey.
Can we back up to that real quick, just for those who are listening and maybe not watching? Because if you're watching, you can see all this, but I just want to point out the second one was calendar at 60%. Which is great. Now, do you think that was a higher trend? I don't know if you have that information in front of you.
Let me check.
From 2020.
No, I don't.
Okay, that's fine.
That tells me it stayed the same. I only made note of things that changed.
Okay, and then we have teaching philosophy at 46%, which is great. Okay. This is so much fun. This is so much fun. I'm going to probably do this for fun reading this weekend. Thanks.
Okay, the next question is, what studio marketing materials or strategies do you use? Again, multiple answers. Gosh, there was a list of over 20 things, but
I
I'll
bet.
focus kind of on the ones that changed. But for those not watching, I will say number one, you probably guessed this, word of mouth. 85% of teachers say that is something that they use for marketing. Not surprising. Not surprising, number two is referrals at 77%. And that 77% is an increase from 2020. This is talking about referrals from current students, which is a kind of word of mouth, but word of mouth was a broader
Yeah, that could
term.
be like, oh, my daughter's, friend down the street. So a referral is from your in-house studio
Yes,
students. Okay.
right. So that tells me there's a level of satisfaction that teachers are providing to their students, that they want to
Yeah,
refer
that's awesome.
to others.
Okay. And then I see website is higher than Facebook.
It is. Now, here's some interesting things about website and Facebook. Website was number three at 45%, and that was an increase from 2020. An increase. Part of me wonders, because all the marketing people I listen to say you absolutely must have a website if you have a teaching studio or a business of any kind. But this is less than half of our teachers who report they have that. I know many use Facebook as a replacement for that. And I can see that for some studios. I can absolutely see that being effective. Facebook came in at 34%, and that included everything related to Facebook. It included a Facebook page or boosting a post or running an ad. It was everything related to Facebook. What didn't make the list here, but it's worth mentioning, is Instagram. Instagram was at 10%, but
Okay.
it almost doubled since 2020. When it was closer to 5%.
All
So
right.
Instagram is on the rise, it appears, amongst our teachers. And then the other ones that made the list here were studio logo and email blasts.
Now, when you say studio logo, like, is that a sign outside of their studio or?
It could be any usage. We just asked about any usage of a studio. It could just be having a logo, but it appears on all of your printed materials. It could be
Okay.
on your sign outside. Sure.
It could be on your students' piano bags.
Yes, indeed.
I always think that's really fun when teachers do that.
Those are so cute.
Cool. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, let me see what I asked next for you. Okay, so teachers, again, if you're concerned about a livable income, and we know they told us that.
Yeah.
How often do you raise your rates? Now, they were only given these choices. Do you raise annually, every 2 years, every 3 to 5 years, or never? You want to take a guess at this one?
I'm basing this off of teachers that I work with because those are the ones that I hear from the most. I want to say it's either every 2 years or every 3 to 5 years is what I'm thinking. Okay.
You are on the nose here. So the number one answer was every 3 to 5 years, 34%. And the second answer was every 2 years, 31%. What surprised me was that 10% still said never, never. Now, the good news there is that in 2020, 17% said never.
Okay.
So we're making progress there.
Yeah.
The other change from 2020 is annual raises. So here it was 18%. In 2020, it was 11%. So more teachers are raising annually.
Getting on the right track.
And the every 3 to 5 years answer is a decrease from 2020. So yes, it does appear teachers, at least based on this historical data, compliant with the FTC, that teachers are raising rates more often.
Man, I can't wait to see the 2028 one.
I agree.
I want to know.
I hope it's well, and the more teachers that take the survey, the better data we'll have too about the state of our profession. Now, related to this, we then tried to identify a national average for the cost of what teachers charge for a 60-minute private lesson. So there was a lot of math that went into this because we asked teachers, if you don't teach 60 minutes, then convert what you do teach into 60 minutes. to figure out what a comparable rate would be. This was only private lessons. If you do, hybrid stuff of any kind or overlapping lessons, figure out if you didn't do that, what would you be charging for a 60-minute lesson? I'm not going to ask you to guess this because as you can...
I have a number in my head. Oh, I was thinking 60. So it's close.
Well, this is good news then. So the overall 2024 average, this is across the country. Now, a huge range. Wyoming showed up with the lowest average, 44, and District of Columbia had the highest average, 92. And by the way, if you go to the results online, in the longer version, the 84-page version, it breaks it out for every single state, what their average was. So that might be helpful, if teachers are moving to different states, to get an idea of the difference. It's not going to tell you what to charge because there's so many other factors that go into that. But you certainly can see geography makes a difference. Now, the not so great news here is that if we go back to 2020, adjust the answer there for inflation, 2020 in today's dollars is $67 for the average. That means our 2024 average of $65 is not keeping up with inflation quite.
Wow. I appreciate that you guys did that you have it adjusted so that we're not questioning the value of the dollar. You know what I mean? So very smart work.
Well, and we tend to forget how impactful inflation is on that livable income question. It's a big part of how you plan for your livable income. We see it right now with the grocery prices, and how much more of my money is going for gas or bread. I do speculate a little bit here that the 2024 number may be artificially low because we were coming out of COVID. And I know some teachers did not raise rates during COVID. I didn't for 1 year with my private students because I knew there was such hardship with some of them. And if you didn't raise your rates during COVID or didn't raise them as much, then as we came out of COVID, and inflation spiked and is still spiking, you may not have raised your rates enough to cover that spike that we have seen. So I think there may be a period of adjustment here, and that in 2028, it might level back out, that we keep up with inflation. At least I hope so.
Yeah. What you're saying makes absolute sense because I think it has been such a shift since the pandemic that even if you did raise your rates, you probably don't feel like you're making any headway at all. So I think that's a wise assessment there.
Yeah. And I wanted to share this question with you to give you an example of how things change and how quickly they change. Here we asked what payment methods you offer parents, and we gave examples: cash, check, credit card, Venmo, PayPal, AutoPay, etc. And as you would likely guess, checks and cash are still the top answers.
Okay.
But coming in at number 3, 63% of teachers offer Venmo or something similar to Venmo. 63% offer it. It doesn't mean the parents are all using it yet, but they offer it. And in 2020, Venmo did not even make the list.
Oh.
These types of apps did not
existed.
They did, but I think it was so new.
Yeah.
And there's an example of how things can change now in our world.
I'm going to be really curious in 2028 about the credit and debit card because that's at 15%. And I'm thinking that I'm going to say it now. I bet it's going to be in the top 3.
Okay. And I'm watching the AutoPay, and the PayPal type ones because they're rising too. Using AutoPay is at 21% here in the survey, and PayPal was above that at 29%.
Now, how would you differentiate? Because my students that do AutoPay, they use a credit card.
The way it was described within the survey, it was if you run something automatically through your bank account, whether it's a credit card or some other just transfer.
Okay, now I'm going to change my answer.
Okay.
Because I didn't know that. AutoPay, that's what I'm thinking is going to definitely be in the top 3.
Yeah.
I hope that's above check. That's just what I'm going to say.
Yeah. And then we define credit card. That's when you give the credit card directly to the teacher, and some of them have like a square.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, nay. I changed my answer then. AutoPay. I'm with you.
And this question surprised me too, but I think I know why. What studio management program or tool service do you use? And we gave examples, a spreadsheet like Excel or QuickBooks or something like My Music Staff. We listed a whole bunch of options for them. Surprisingly, 50% said none. They used no software, no management service, and apparently not even a spreadsheet, because that was a separate answer that we gave them an option to choose. 25% said a spreadsheet, and that was the number 2 answer. Now, I hope maybe they misunderstood the question and weren't really thinking how broad a spreadsheet could be as an answer, because surely they're keeping track somehow. And even if it's just a paper ledger, that's a type of spreadsheet. I hope they're really not just throwing receipts in a box and not keeping track of things. I hope. And for the rest of the answers, My Music Staff was at 15%, QuickBooks was at 7%, and then there was a lot of other that went into that category. But as you can see, our teachers are honestly sharing what they're doing. I'm going to give you one more.
Oh, good. We have one more. Okay.
Because I have to advocate for this one. How do you obtain general liability insurance? If you are an independent teacher, especially teaching in your home, I hope every one of those teachers has general liability insurance. That's too important in today's world. But 26% shared that they do not have general liability insurance. Most said, 44%, that they do, and they do it as a rider to their homeowner's policy. And that's very common. And another 17% said they have a separate business policy. Again, these are the kinds of things that surprise me, the ones that are related to legal issues. I think you did pretty well, Jackie.
Thank you.
But just miscellaneous type things, and they're all related to legal issues. We mentioned the studio policy usage seemed to be going down. We asked teachers about their awareness of zoning regulations in their area, and that percentage went down. We asked about things like do you have a photo or video release for your students? That went down. We asked, do you communicate about how to terminate lessons? That went down. Do you share information about how you're going to use social media in your studio, like disclosing how you're going to use it? That went down. These all go to potential major legal issues if something were to happen in any of those areas in the studio. So it's concerning, a bit surprising, but more so concerning. But it's also, and this is another reason we do the survey, it's guiding us at MTNA to figure out ways we can help teachers in these areas. Maybe we need more educational work. Maybe we need more tools to help them figure this out.
Yeah, I love that. Well, and you're talking about zoning, and I'm thinking, well, that one was not on my radar at all. So there's 4 of them. I'm going to repeat them because I think it's really important for everybody to hear this. So liability insurance, and you seem comfortable with doing it on the homeowner's insurance.
I did that for many, many years with a home studio.
Okay, good. I wanted to see you nod your head because that's what
Yes,
I
this
do.
is a big nod for you. Now, you do want to check your levels of coverage from time to time. And your insurance broker will tell you exactly what you need to really feel good about if something were to happen, do I have enough coverage to pay for those claims?
So we have that. We have the zoning. We have, oh my goodness, you've got to have the photo release. These days, you have to have the photo release. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then, yes, the explanation of how you're planning on using social media for your studio. And I'm thinking about that. I'm kind of like, in my brain, I'm thinking, okay, I do have that, but I think I just did that just because I felt like I needed to. I wasn't thinking about it as being a legal issue down the road. You know, this is the kind of world we're in. So we just need to be ahead of that.
Yeah. And a lot of this comes from my experience with the community art school, where I dealt with thousands of parents, and I had the university legal counsel writing our waivers and our registration forms for us. You know, and these are things is that, you know, all you need is one parent. You know this. All you need is one parent to say, well, I don't want my child on social media in any capacity, and you told me you weren't going to do that, but you did.
Yeah, that's a big trust breaker right there. We don't want to do that at all. Well, this was like incredibly insightful, even for me. I mean, because I looked through the member survey, but there is so much to it that I think it's worth a couple of looks, to kind of see. And I think now is a really good time as we're in summer and a lot of people might be thinking about fall and that kind of thing. So before we log off, I just want to, well, first of all, this is amazing. I love the work that you do and I love the value that you bring to our community. And I'm kind of almost in a selfish way grateful that your teaching days have kind of ended so you can just dedicate more time to us. But we will be meeting again here soon on June 3rd. You want to share about that?
That's right. We have been invited to do a webinar for MTNA on the topic of studio policies and lesson rates. That's a Tuesday, which is different, which is 12 Eastern, which is different than some of the webinars. They're usually on Fridays. This is a Tuesday, but it's the summer. This is a great time.
June 23rd, right?
June
I'm gonna double check my calendar. June 23rd. Okay.
Yeah. Yes. And together we'll be looking at studio policies in more depth and trying to make sense out of how we can encourage teachers to review and analyze and reflect and go deeper, maybe look for misalignments, figure out what their core values are, how their studio policy can serve them as well as their students. And anything you would add to that?
Yeah, and communicating that. I love the fact that it's going to be communicating the value. Eric Brenner and I did a podcast recently, and we were talking about how you can prepare this beautiful policy and you're so proud of it. But then when it comes to the communicating and enforcing, it's like, oh no, here we go. I think this is going to be really beneficial. And this is just one of the many ways that going to these MTNA webinars can help. The business digest that you put together is really, really helpful for teachers. And I'm taking a wild guess that you are thinking about teachers with the member survey when you put together these business digest articles. Am I right?
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely.
So I would really recommend that, people check that out, because I think some people don't realize with their MTNA membership, there's so much more than just being able to, attend local meetings and that kind of thing. Like, you've got so much great knowledge and expertise at your fingertips at the website. So Karen, thank you so much for joining and sharing with us today. That was a lot of fun.
Thank you. That was a lot of fun.
Alrighty, special thanks to Karen Thickstun. I hope you all enjoyed this conversation as much as I did, and I really hope that it gave you a few things to think about as you look at your own policies, your own studio structure, communication, all of the things. And I really, really hope that when that survey comes up for 2028, we all take the time to do it, because information is power. And don't forget, if you want to keep this conversation going, Karen and I will be presenting the MTNA webinar, Communicating Value and Boundaries, Studio Policies That Serve and Protect, on June 23rd of 2026. And if you want even more hands-on help getting your policy and your calendar outlined, my final policy triangle workshop is coming up on June 19th at noon Eastern Time. You can join me at scrappypianoteacher.com/scrappy sessions. It includes a policy audit for me, even if you need to watch the replay, but I really hope that you can make it. And in 2 weeks, we'll be talking all about how to communicate changes to your studio families, plus a few fun tips and tricks to make that process a little easier, less painful, and less, confrontationally-ish, if that's the word I'm looking for. All right, thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you all next time on the Scrappy Piano Teacher Podcast. Bye.